This is the new DJI Avata, and this drone is pretty wild. So in this video, what we're gonna go through is my experience playing around with this drone. You can fly super low to the ground and super fast, and it just creates this really dynamic style of shot that you can't really get with other styles of drones. So in this video, we're gonna go through everything that you need to know about this drone. We're gonna talk about all the features it has on the drone itself, the different controllers that you can use with this drone, camera that they have built into the drone, and of course, the goggles, because DJI has released a new set of goggles for this FPV drone. And so before we dig into all of the features that this drone offers, let's go take it for a flight. All right, so I have everything here. I've actually never flown FPV drones before, like at all. I've got this drone set up, I got it up in my backyard and hovered, but this is my first experience into FPV. And I know there's a lot of you out there who might be interested in just diving into FPV drones. And so I thought this would be a great drone to dip my feet into this world. I'm not big into FPV, but I definitely think that there is a lot of use for this style of drone as a tool to help tell stories and just to be another tool in the toolkit. So let's try this thing out. Let's see how easy it is to fly. All right, well, that is a ton of fun. Hopefully this drone's not broken. I'm gonna look right now and see if we can fly. But while I'm checking this drone out, I just wanna say a special thanks to our sponsor, which is Adobe Stock. And Adobe Stock is looking for creators like you to join their platform and start uploading your photos, videos, illustrations, templates, and vector images. And how Stock works is that you're licensing your content to be used in someone else's project. However, you retain 100% of the rights to actually own that piece of content. So you're getting paid to let someone else use your assets in their project. Now, Adobe Stock is a platform where designers, filmmakers, advertising agencies, and many other clients find their photographs, video clips, and illustrations to use in their projects. And one really cool thing about Adobe Stock compared to the other platforms that are out there is the access to the stock in all of their apps using the Creative Cloud integration. And you also have the ability to use Adobe's machine learning intelligence to upload keyword and sell your images with the industry's fastest workflow. And there's a huge opportunity in the stock footage market for the content that you're producing, because Adobe needs vertical content, because a lot of what's being produced now is in vertical format for a phone. So there's a lack of vertical stock footage out there. So it's a great opportunity for you to start digging into your hard drives or going out and shooting this style of content. Now, if you're not sure exactly what to shoot to sell as stock, well, Adobe does put out calls for content, which they'll specify the types of content that they're missing in their library, which is a great way to start getting sales because there's a demand for this style of content that's not on the platform yet. So if you're ready to sign up and start selling your content as stock, I'll include a link down below in the description to where you can get started with Adobe Stock right now. All right, I think we are ready to go. I'm gonna take this guy for another little ride here. Okay, so my shots aren't the smoothest yet, but this was just my first flight flying this drone. Now, I've taken it out a few other times in a few different locations, and I can definitely see where the potential is with this drone. But let's go over the features around the drone and controllers and all the components. Now, first, this drone is tiny. I mean, it's super small, much different than the original DJI FPV, which was a little bit bigger and bulkier. This is the Cinewhoop style, and these got popular for being able to fly through things and be able to navigate close around objects. And definitely when I was flying, I mean, I was taking some risks, but I was able to get super close to objects, and I thought I was gonna hit the tree or the fence, and I was able to just skim right by it. The size definitely makes a huge impact when flying this style of drone, and even with my limited experience flying this drone, you could get really close to objects fairly easily. And the great thing about this design is that you have these plastic barriers all around the drone. So no matter what you hit, it's gonna bounce off. And let's talk about the durability of this drone, because on my first flight, I flew full speed right into a tree and didn't damage the camera, didn't damage any of the propellers or any of the casing around the drone. Now I crashed it a few other times, went right through a tree, I hit a fence, and every time that I crashed this drone, there's been no issues with the actual drone itself. It's kind of covered in grass now from chewing up through the grass when I was flying super low, but that's it. So overall, this drone is pretty durable, and it's gonna take a beating when you're out flying and running into things. Especially if you're new to FPV like me, well, you're gonna run into stuff. Now the battery on this drone has about an 18-minute flight time. You're not gonna get the full 18 minutes because you're gonna wanna bring the drone back and you're gonna wanna land, and at a certain point, it's gonna return to home. So this drone does have smart return to home, meaning that if you're flying out there and you hit the return to home button, it's gonna go back to the home point. And one really cool thing when you're flying with the goggles is that whenever you rotate around and you're looking back towards home, there's an H out on the horizon of where your home point is. So you can always see where you need to get back to. Now the multi-charger that you get in the Fly More kit has place for 4 different batteries. So usually the multi-chargers have 3, this one has 4. So you'll wanna bring more batteries with you when you're out flying this drone. Now the battery on this drone is a little bit different than DJI's other drones that I've worked with. But just like DJI's other products, everything's very seamless and easy to use. Now inside the casing where the propellers are, there's a slot for your USB-C and also your micro SD. Now you can use up to a 256 gigabyte card in the drone. And one other thing that's great about this drone is you have 20 gigabytes of internal storage. On all of DJI's other drones, you always have 8 gigabytes. And so I'm glad to see that they're increasing the amount of storage in the actual drone itself. Now also on the drone, you have sensors on the bottom, which is gonna give you downward positioning. There's no other sensors on this drone. There's no forward, backwards, left, or right. So you can't rely on your sensors to stop you if you're gonna fly into an object. But what's nice is that the gimbal is inside the plastic casing so that it has a level of protection for when you run into something on the front side. Now also with the lens, you have a little bit of protection around the lens, and it also allows you to clip on things like ND filters. Now DJI also released a set of ND filters with this drone, but most of the footage that you're seeing in this video was shot without them. I've been just playing around with auto settings and just getting a sense of how to fly this drone before I really start dialing the settings and getting more of the cinematic look. Now it has 4 feet on the bottom, which gives you clearance for takeoff and landing. And other than that, that's it on the actual drone itself. Super simple and small and lightweight. It's around 400 grams. So it's not the sub 250 grams, but it's still a small and compact drone that gives you a lot of flexibility when you're out flying. Now let's talk about the camera on this drone, because they've improved this camera from the original DJI FPV drone. When I look at the specs of this and the Action 2, they look identical. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're using the Action 2 camera in this drone, but I haven't confirmed that with DJI itself. So it's a 1 1/7 inch sensor with a field of view of 155 degrees. And the big thing is that you can shoot all the way up to 4K 60 frames per second. In 2.7K, you get 100 frames per second with these goggles, but if you're using DJI's version 2 goggles, you can go up to 120 frames per second. Now, in terms of stabilization, you have 3 different modes. You have off, which allows you to take the gyro data and bring it into software like GyroFlow to be able to stabilize, or you can use Rocksteady or Horizon Steady. Now, in terms of color, you have a standard look, which is super clean right out of camera, or you can use D-Cine-like, which is DJI's kind of flatter profile that you can then color grade later. So here's some footage shot in D-Cine-like, and then here's a grade applied to that shot. And with the bitrate being 150 megabits per second, you can definitely do some color grading on this footage. Now I haven't confirmed, but I'm assuming that this is an 8-bit 420 image. So you're not gonna be able to push the footage that far, but it definitely gives you a little bit more room to color grade when you're out flying. All right, so let me show you how these goggles work. So you have an external battery, and it's just like every other DJI product where you press once and then hold, and then it turns on the goggles. And it's got this longish cable that goes to the bottom here. And this can be just like mounted somewhere. It's just like a little tube. I mean, I guess you could stick it up on your head. You could put it in a pocket, pretty much anywhere you want, or just like set in your lap if you're sitting here. Now also you can attach an additional cable for your phone. The cool thing about this is if you have a long-ish cable, you have a screen on your phone that shows everything that you're seeing in your goggles. So if you're with someone else, well, you can hand them your phone and they can see everything that you're seeing, so that you basically have this screen or this screen. Or if you don't want to fly using the goggles, you can fly using the screen, just like this. So if you're out by yourself, you want to just fly while you can still see the drone and not have the goggles on, well, you have an unobstructed view by keeping this in your hand. So you can just fly using the screen just like you would a normal drone. Now let me go into the zone. All right, so hey, look, I'm over there. It's so weird like seeing the screen on my face, seeing the drone over there. But this is all controlled by swipes here on the side. So if I swipe down, you have a menu with record, screen lock, enhanced display, head tracking, brightness, and volume. You swipe right, you have all of your settings. So you have like your status, you have your album, your transmission, you have settings where you can control all the settings of your drone, safety, camera, etc. But then also you could swipe up and then you get all your camera settings. So this is really convenient because you could switch from photo to video. You can go to your mode. You can take full manual of all your settings, and you can go through and set your video quality, your field of view, your ISO limit, your rock steady, your color. Basically everything that you need is on that menu where you swipe up, or you can go in the deeper menu. And then also in the deeper menu, let's go to that. Here's where you can change things about your controllers, your gimbal pitch speed, your gimbal calibration. This is also where you access turtle mode. So there's been plenty of times when I've been out flying today where I flipped the drone over and I had to go in here, hit the turtle mode, and it flips back over. And you can also set this in the custom settings on your controller. So let's dig back in. Okay, so now let's go to our remote controller, button customization, and you can see here, you could do a bunch of different things. There's the C1, which has a single press and double press. You have your top, which is C2, and you have top, mid, bottom, so that's 3 separate buttons. And then you have custom mode, which that's where you can set up manual mode. You can also change your stick mode, and then you also have some other configurations for customized flying. So one of the best parts about this drone is when you crash it, you click C1, at least that's what I have set up, and it beeps and flashes so you can find it when you lose it in the brush. That's super convenient. Now, one other thing that's great about the Vision goggles is that you can record to an SD card that's in the goggles. It can support up to a 512 micro SD card, and the difference between the drone and the goggles is that on the goggles, you can overlay your data, and the image that's being transmitted is 50 megabits per second. So as long as you have a stable connection between the drone and the goggles, you're getting a clear image, and you actually have an overlay of all of your data so that you can have the clean footage that comes straight from the drone, or you can add the overlay of all your data that's coming out of the Vision goggles so you could see everything that was going on at the time of flying. All right, so with these goggles, I have them turned off right now, but moving my head around in this bright sunlight in the middle of the day, and I'm not seeing any light come through the edges. So it's a nice seal around the edges of your face to be able to see your screen while you're flying. Now, in terms of latency, it's a pretty low latency. I've noticed that everything's very responsive between the controller, the goggles, and the drone. Now, you have 2 controller options for this drone. You have the motion controller, which uses your wrist motion and your body position to control the drone, or you have your classic style drone controller. Now, personally, I've just been using the standard remote control. I haven't really dove into using this one yet because this is new to me, and it's a different way of flying because you use motion of pushing forward or coming up or left or right. Like, you actually use your wrist motion and your body position to move the drone around. And I'll play around with it. But personally, I've been using this style of controller for years, And this is just what I'm used to when I'm flying drones. However, if you're coming from DJI's other drones, there's some different controls that you have access to when using this controller. So looking down at the front, you have your power button and you have a custom button. Up in the upper left hand, you have your gimbal wheel, you have your home button, your pause button, and then you have this switch that goes from normal to sport mode to manual mode. Now there's no cine mode like you'll find on other drones because these are meant to go faster. They're not meant to go super slow and just creep along, get those slow cinematic shots. If you're gonna do something like that, you might as well get a different style of drone. These are meant to go fast and be close to objects because that's where you really get the use out of an FPV drone. So there's only a normal mode and a sport mode. And I've been flying a lot in the sport mode because you get that sense of a lot of motion when you're going super fast. And then if you want to go full manual and you're an experienced FPV pilot, you can set this to be full manual. You click down on this, and then on the other side, there's a start stop button, which will start the manual mode. The cool thing about this drone is that if you just take your hands off the controller and you're not in manual mode, the drone will just stop like every other DJI drone and just hover. This makes it super easy and accessible, especially to first-time pilots. If you're just getting started with FPV, this makes it really easy because if you're out of control and you can't really figure out what you're doing, you can let go or hit the pause button and the drone's gonna come to a stop and just hover. Whereas if you have it in the manual mode and you let go of the controller, well, the drone's gonna keep moving. So you have to be an experienced pilot and you have to learn the controls on how to use the joysticks if you're gonna fly in the manual mode. Now on the right-hand side, you have your record, start, stop, or your photos, and then you also have another custom switch, which is 3 different buttons. Now right now, just the default, it snaps the gimbal up, down, or straight ahead. With this gimbal, you have a lot of range, so it can look straight up or basically straight down. And when you're flying this drone, you don't have to use it always as an FPV drone. You can slow down your movements, put it in normal mode, and fly it more like a traditional drone, especially if you use horizon steady. So you're not seeing that shift happen when you're flying around in FPV style. Now, the other thing you'll notice about this controller is there's nowhere to put your phone because you're gonna be using the goggles that's on your face. But they've also added a loop in the center here, so you could just let the controller just hang here loosely when you're flying. So as a first-time flyer of FPV drones, I definitely feel like this is a fun experience. Just flying the drone, whizzing around these trees and the baseball field. It's so much fun to just fly the drone all over. FPV is not something that I'm super interested just to do this. However, I see the potential for these style of shots to be used in a bigger story piece. And I think this drone just makes FPV so much more accessible and so much easier to learn. So I've got a ton of practice to do to really perfect these shots, but it's something that I'm definitely gonna keep in my toolkit when I'm out shooting my videos. But next, you should check out this video right here, which goes through a ton of different drone moves that you can use when you're flying any style of drone. I'll see you on the next one.